You're listening to the webinar, Introduction to Baseball for the Blind, brought to you by the World Baseball Softball Confederation, the WBSC, on the WBSC Academy eLearning Center. My name is Tom Nagel. I'm chairman of the Paralympic Commission of the World Baseball Softball Confederation. I help set up Baseball for the Blind in France. Welcome to the webinar, An Introduction to Baseball for the Blind. In this webinar, addressed to national federations, we will introduce you to Baseball for the Blind, an adapted version of the game of baseball, especially designed for visually impaired people. In this webinar, we'll take you through the history of Baseball for the Blind, played by the Italian rules, and of the association that created the game, the AIBXC. We'll go over the basics of the game, its rules, field specifications, and equipment, and then we'll talk about the benefits for the visually impaired of playing Baseball for the Blind. And to conclude, we'll discuss how to develop the sport in your country or area with the cooperation of the WBSC. We'll use presentations and videos throughout the webinar, and a live question and answer interactive video session will be scheduled after the training sessions. To start the webinar, we want to introduce you to the history of Baseball for the Blind, or B4B. The founder of B4B is Alfredo Melli. He was a former Italian baseball champion, former player for the Fortitudo Bologna and the Italian national team. He's the only Italian to have won the national championships as a player, a coach, and a manager. As he had some blind friends and loved baseball so much, one day he said to himself, "How can I make blind people play baseball?" So he managed to invent a game with rules and all the necessary equipment to enable blind people to play in complete safety. He wrote the following text. "In baseball played by the blind, we hit the ball, we run the bases, we catch the ball, and we throw the ball. And those who look at it from the outside are surprised at how little baseball has lost in becoming B4B. Baseball played by the blind. Baseball was waiting for blind people to discover it." In 1994, the first game of Baseball for the Blind took place, and it has captivated people all over the world ever since. It's not possible to talk about the history of Baseball for the Blind without mentioning the AIBXC. On March 26, 1998, AIBXC Onlus was founded with the collaboration of volunteers and friends. Ever since then, AIBXC organizes a regular annual championship season, which includes the Italian Championships, the Italian Cup, and the end of the season tournament. Another important milestone for the development of the discipline took place in 2005, when AIBXC Onlus joined the Italian Baseball Softball Federation, the FIBS or FIBS. The AIBXC joined the FIBS as an independent body thanks to a protocol agreement signed between Alfredo Melli and Riccardo Fraccari, the president of FIBS at the time, and now president of the WBSC. A few years later, in 2010, Alfredo Melli, creator of Baseball Played by the Blind and founder of AIBXC, sadly passed away. But the game he developed still lives on today. Alfredo Melli was inducted into the Italian Baseball Hall of Fame the same year. In 2011, the Italian Paralympic Committee officially recognized FIBS as a Paralympic federation. Thanks to AIBXC activity, and more recently in 2018, the FIBS Federal Council, chaired by its current president, Andrea Marcon, officially established the entry of Baseball for the Blind into the Italian Baseball Softball Federation, with the creation of the Italian Baseball for the Blind and Visually Impaired League, the LIBCI, which is the organizing body for the national championships, cups, and tournaments. In October 2019, in Rome, on the site of the 1960 Rome Olympics, AIBXC organized, with the help of the Italian Baseball Softball Federation, the 9th Mole Cup, the biggest baseball for the blind international tournament ever, with the participation of 6 teams from 6 nations. The Mole Cup was invented by Franz Fischer, a former coach from the Bavarian Bats in Germany, in 2010. It's an international invitational tournament open to any European or worldwide team. Since 2011, this annual competition has been held in Germany, Italy, and France alternately. In 2020, the 10th edition of the Mole Cup was supposed to be held in Germany in Freising, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the event has been postponed to 2021. For several years now, AIBXC has been collaborating closely with the WBSC. This cooperation was strengthened with the recent establishment in 2018 of the WBSC Paralympic Commission, which includes Tom Nagel, that's me from France, as chairman, and Lorenzo Doregni and Sarwa Gulam from Italy as members. With WBSC financial support, AIBXC has been able to send equipment and coaches to Guatemala and Argentina. For the first time in history, WBSC invited a delegation from AIBXC to its Congress in Osaka, Japan in November 2019. And also, through WBSC, AIBXC was again invited to the latest European Baseball-Softball Congress in Vilnius, Lithuania in February 2020, where the sport was presented to the European national federations. Cooperation between both organizations is strengthening the discipline and helping to bring baseball for the blind into new regions. Now it's time to play ball and see some action. The following video shows you players approaching baseball for the blind for the first time, and will give you a first impression of the game. The video is in Italian with captions in English at the bottom.
Stiamo scherzando. Mi è piaciuto molto baseball.
Il baseball consiste nel prendere una pallina sonora.
Le mazze, ce ne sono alcune più pesanti, più leggere in base un po' alla corporatura della persona.
C'è qualcuno che è mancino? Io. La parte di attacco è con la mazza. La destra. Perché il posto dove siete partiti a fianco del posto dove siete partiti una volta,
E tipo qua?
tu parti da qua. Qua sei a casa base.
Questa è casa base, è il primo traguardo per far punto.
Ogni squadra fa un turno di attacco e un turno di difesa. 9 turni di attacco e 9 turni di difesa fanno una partita.
Dopo siamo andati sul campo.
Allora, questo è un campo di baseball regolare.
Abbiamo corso da una parte all'altra del campo, perché dovevamo prendere domestichezza col campo.
Battitore.
Mentre correvamo c'era un suono.
Il suono se lo lascia sulla sinistra, inizia a
Correre liberamente per il campo, non ci sono ostacoli, è stato veramente bellissimo.
Un po' difficile le prime volte passare da una base all'altra, bisogna infatti capire alla perfezione da dove viene il suono ed essere capace di orientarsi per non uscire dal campo.
È stato bello che siamo stati tutti bendati, secondo me. C'è stato un senso di parità. Chi comunque vede un minimo ha comunque un punto di riferimento.
Essendo che ci hanno bendati, poi comunque è brutto da dire ma siete abituati. Noi invece è una cosa che ci fa strano, tanto. tipo ci perdiamo, voi invece siete più abituati, quindi riuscite a farlo meglio. Noi invece eravamo tutti tipo, oddio chi è questo, chi è quest'altro?
Io penso, e questo lo dico perché lo credo e perché l'ho visto, è uno dei pochi sport che i disabili visivi possono fare. Vi siete accorti che siete liberi di correre? E ho visto all'inizio persone che avevano addirittura paura di venire in campo, non si staccavano da noi e dopo 2 anni venivano all'allenamento in auto da soli.
Si ringrazia l'Irifor Emilia Romagna, l'Unione Italiana Ciechi Ipovedenti e il presidente Mario Barbuto, l'Istituto dei Ciechi Francesco Cavazza, il progetto Netting Campus Nazionale, Serena Cimmini, Marco Fossati, le educatrici e gli educatori e tutte le ragazze e i ragazzi che hanno partecipato.
Now that you've seen some action on the field, I'll take you through learning the basics of the game. At the moment, AIBXC has 11 teams in Italy. These are the Italian teams in their regions. I Petrini Malnate in Varese, Lampi Milano in Milan, Thunders 5 Milano in Milan, Staranzano BXC in Gorizia, Leonessa BXC in Brescia, Bologna Fortitudo White Sox in Bologna, Fiorentina BXC in Florence, the Umbria Redskins in Perugia, the Roma All Blinds in Rome, the Tigers Paralympic Sport in Cagliari, and the Thirpos in Cagliari. The AIBXC also oversees and supports teams around the world. These are the existing teams and teams in formation. 1 in Germany, 1 in France, 1 in Great Britain, 6 in Pakistan. Pakistan has a blind baseball national championship. 2 in the USA in New York City, and 7 teams in Cuba. Cuba also has a national league. And the AIBXC continues to expand the game to more regions around the world. International activity is growing thanks to cooperation with the WBSC. We're working with Panama, Guatemala, and Argentina in order to build new teams in the near future, while also developing the strategic plan to incorporate new regions and countries starting in 2021. Let's take a look at the equipment required to play baseball for the blind. The ball, gloves, bats, blindfolds, clappers, and the bases. The ball is a regular hollow rubber practice ball with 6 holes drilled in it and 2 nickel-plated brass bells inside. The bells help players find the ball. Gloves are the same gloves used in regular baseball or softball. Blindfolds resemble a skier's mask and are foam-coated inside. According to international blind sports rules, wearing masks is mandatory both to equalize play between totally blind and partially blind players, and for their role in protecting players. The official mask is produced and distributed by the AIBXC. And the game uses regular baseball or softball bats. Clappers are used by the second base assistant with felt on one clapper, and by the third base assistant with felts on both clappers. The sighted base assistants use the clappers to help the visually impaired runners to locate the bases. Different felt clappers help diversify the sounds and make it easier for the players to identify where each base is located. The flat first base is level to the ground so that players do not trip over it and fall when running around first base. The electronic first base makes a beeping sound to help players to orient themselves on the field of play while running. The horn is buried in a box under the base. The sound box is used to control the horn under the flat first base. The umpire or assistant has a remote control switch to turn on the horn just after the hit and turn it off when the runner has passed the base and is running towards second. Flat bases are used on second and third bases to prevent runners from tripping. The second baseman's bag is a regular baseball base cushion for the sighted defensive player. You can start teaching the game using tactile maps of the field to familiarize players with base running and defense. When players first approach the game, they're usually given some tactile maps. Black parts are embossed as opposed to the white parts, so they can be identified by players by touch. There are two kinds of maps, one with only the field and one with players in position, so players can understand how the field is structured and where players are located on defense. The picture on the left shows a regular baseball field, and on the right you see a field for baseball for the blind. As you can see, there are small differences between both fields. If you look at the regular baseball field on the left, you can see that baseball uses all of the area between right and left field. Now look at the image on the right. You'll see that in baseball for the blind, all defensive action takes place only in left field. Only runners, like in regular baseball, are allowed to run around the infield, starting from home plate, rounding first base and moving to second, then advancing to third and scoring a run at the plate. On defense, there is an extra base, 4 meters, that is 13 feet, beyond the regular second base called the defensive second base. A string that goes from the defensive second base to the third base foul line marks the limit of the fair ball zone. Should the batter fail to hit the ball over the string, the ball is called foul. Should the batter hit the ball in the air without bouncing on the ground at least once before passing over the string, the hit is considered a fly out. The home run line in the outfield marks the home run area. If a fair ball rolls over this line, it's declared a home run. In this image, we can see where players, assistants, and umpires are positioned on the field and briefly how the game is played. Each team is made up of 5 blind players, 1 sighted player, and 1 sighted defensive assistant. The sighted defensive player and sighted assistant also serve as base coaches at second and third base when the team comes to bat. There are 5 umpires on the field. HPU is the home plate umpire. U1 is the first base umpire who controls the beeping first base. U2 is the second base umpire. U3 is the third base umpire. And HRU is the home run umpire. There are 3 assistants on offense. HPA is the home plate assistant who helps batters come to bat at the plate. SA, the second base assistant who assists the runner at second. And TA, the third base assistant who assists the runner at third. On defense, there's a sighted mound assistant, MA, a sighted defensive player on the defensive second base, SDP, and 5 blind players in the field. Number 5 is third base. Number 6 is shortstop. Number 7 is left fielder. Number 8 is center fielder. And number 9 is right fielder. So this is how to play the game. The batter, B, puts the ball in play by tossing it up in the air and hitting it. In order for the batted ball to be ruled fair ball or in play, it must go beyond the string, which starts at the left corner of the defensive second base, 2 dB, and extends to the third base foul line behind third base, 3B. The defensive second base, 2 dB, is located approximately 4 meters, that's 13 feet, beyond the regular second base on a line extending along the first to second baseline. The string is parallel to the running lane between second and third base, 4 meters back. The ball must bounce at least one time before crossing the string. The batter runner, B, attempts to reach second base, 2B, either by touching or going around first base, 1SB. The batter runner is safe if she or he arrives on second base, 2B, before the sighted defensive player, SDP, positioned on the defensive second base, 2 dB, catches the throw from a blind defensive player, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. The batter runner is out if first base is not properly rounded or second base is not reached in time. The batter is allowed 3 swings, and if she or he does not put the ball in play or fails to hit it on the third and final swing, it's a strikeout. A foul ball is always a strike. The runner on second base advances to third base and then to home plate on successive batted balls. Runners can leave second base or third base only after the umpire has called the batted ball fair, and this occurs at the moment the properly batted ball crosses the string. Upon arrival at either second or third base, the runners must touch the base. The runner does not have to maintain contact. The batter runner and runner can try to reach an extra base only after the blind fielder has made a wild throw to the sighted second base player, or after the sighted second base player has failed to catch the throw. Runners have to reach the extra base before the sighted second base player retrieves the ball and returns it to and touches the defensive second base. A run is scored when the runner on third base crosses the home plate imaginary line, HP. The home plate line is 13 feet, that's 4 meters wide. The center of this line corresponds to the point of the home plate, and from there it continues towards the left along the first base line, 6.5 feet, 2 meters, and to the right 6.5 feet, following an extension of the first base foul line. If the ball batted in fair territory rolls beyond 225 feet, that's 68.6 meters, it's considered a home run. The sighted defense player on defensive second base may field a ball hit in his vicinity as long as he or she maintains contact with the defensive second base. Only the batter runner in this case is eliminated. The ball is ruled dead, and if there are other runners on the base at the time, they must return to their respective bases before the next play can begin. Runners at second base or third base are out when the sighted second base player firmly receives and controls the batted ball thrown from one of the 5 defensive players and prior to the batter runner reaching second base safely. If a ball batted in fair territory goes over the string between second base and the third base foul line on the fly, the batter is automatically declared out. This is for safety reasons, and the ball is ruled dead. It's called a flyout. If there are other runners on base at the time, they must return to their respective bases. Games are normally played in 7 to 9 innings. Usually the first things people ask are they really blind? How can they play without seeing the ball? How can they hit? B4B players follow a training path, which is not always easy, and are able to execute typical baseball movements: fielding the ball, throwing the ball, hitting the ball, and running the bases. They achieve results which only slightly differ from non-disabled players. Therefore, whoever watches them playing baseball for the blind eventually says, "This is baseball." Here, players are fielding the ball, plunging to pick off the batted grounder. Defensive players have to learn to work together as a team to locate and field the ball. Learning how to make the proper arm movement for the throw takes time and practice for anyone who plays baseball. Hitting requires concentration and hand-eye coordination, as we say in baseball for the blind. There's no pitcher, so the movement is not exactly the same, but as Yogi Berra observed, how can you think and hit at the same time? Running the bases requires memorizing the infield, speed, and agility. Runners have to listen to their coaches and find the base as the defensive play develops. Learning how to make a slide safely requires top physical condition and control of the space on the way to the base. Runners can also dive at the base safely with practice, or just make contact with the base standing up. Here is a video produced by Massimo Saccares that shows the principal movements and plays in baseball for the blind.
Baseball for the blind was invented and perfectly adapted for blind and visually impaired athletes by Alfredo Melli with a group of former baseball players from Bologna. The equipment used is ball with 6 holes with bells inside, baseball or softball bat, glove, clappers.
Ready? Okay. 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 Begins the second attack for Germany.
When they are at bat, players hit the ball and run to bases on a regular baseball field. They're held by a beeping first base, and then they run to second and third, helped by the rhythmic sound of clappers made by an assistant, and finally they reach home plate and score a run. When at defense, they have to make the most of their hearing ability. In order to find the ball hit by the opposing team, they have to stop the ball with their body and pick up the ball which they have to throw following the instructions by the sighted assistant on second base. The sport, adapted for blind athletes, is very easy and straightforward. They can hit, run, and throw the ball safely, and by doing so, they're able to move around better and they are more independent in their everyday life.
Baseball for the Blind has many social benefits for the sight impaired. Baseball for the Blind improves physical and mental abilities and the general health and well-being of the sight impaired at all levels of play. Baseball for the Blind helps develop new skills and reactivate some abilities which may have been lost or diminished. Hearing refinement is a tool for orientation, movement, and controlling space, which is an essential skill in everyday life for the sight impaired. Baseball for the Blind is a powerful tool for physical and psychological rehabilitation with important benefits for self-reliance in everyday life. Baseball for the Blind enhances self-esteem and self-confidence. Baseball for the Blind emancipates players from the exaggerated precautionary control of families, school, and even doctors who tend to be overprotective. Baseball for the Blind offers an opportunity to further develop interpersonal relationships and friendships thanks to belonging to a team. Baseball for the Blind is an integration tool because there are no age, gender, or nationality restrictions. Baseball for the Blind is one of the few safe team sports for all. How can you develop baseball for the blind in your federation or area? We hope you're interested in offering baseball for the blind as an additional option for visually impaired people in your country or region. To assist you in this objective, we want to present you with a cooperation model integrating AIBXC, the WBSC, your federation, as well as local associations for people with a sight impairment. The AIBXC will provide you with instructors for clinics to train local coaches. The AIBXC will supply equipment to your organization and documentation on how to use the equipment and play the game. The AIBXC will help you coordinate with local blind associations for finding visually impaired players. The WBSC will help you with promotion of baseball for the blind in your area and will provide coordination with other associations and federations for the sight impaired. The WBSC will support your efforts to make baseball for the blind a local and international sport. Your national federation or organization should help locate playing fields and provide support to local clubs to set up sections for baseball for the blind. You should help these clubs procure equipment and find coaches. You should plan on helping set up a development program with our help and help coordinate with local associations for the sight impaired for finding players. You should help teams recruit coaches and assistants to be trained by the AIBXC. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, our Lesson 1, the Introduction course of Baseball for the Blind, has come to an end. Please note that a second lesson on the topic, consisting of a PDF document with more exhaustive information about the history of the sport, its rules, and key facts, is also available on the WBSC Academy. We thank you for your attention and participation. We remain at your disposal to assist you in every way we can so that you're able to introduce baseball for the blind in your country. Thank you in the name of AIBXC and the WBSC. Should you need further information, don't hesitate to contact the WBSC Paralympic Commission at paralympiccom@wbsc.org. That's PARALYMPICCOMM at WBSC.org.